America, you are beautiful, and welcome into the Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham. Dean Owen, Rod Martin, join me right here. Brought to you by the Freedom Chamber, online at freedomchamber.net. It has been a crazy last couple of days of June as we head into the 4th of July and America's 250th birthday. It's been just, I'll call it a wackadoodle week at the Supreme Court. Where should we begin? No men and women's sports. That's just common sense, right? Can we all agree with that? 2 thumbs up to that. Let's see. Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution. Yes, the president can make decisions. Am I right, Rod?
Well, yes, that's exactly right. And circling back to transgender sports,
Yes.
this is just a fundamental fairness issue. And the court got it. I mean, the communists on the court didn't. But, you know, this is the same issue as having NFL teams play peewee teams or heavyweight boxers fight featherweights. It's just absurd. It takes all the sport out of it. It makes it a pure contest of strength if you have a biological male in a ring with a biological female, and skill just doesn't even matter. So these girls prepare their entire young lives for some big championship meet and lose to a guy. I mean, this is just crazy. If a guy wants to be a girl, more power to him. He can go compete with the other biological males out of fairness, just like a heavyweight boxer has to compete with the other heavyweight boxers. Okay, so shifting back to Article 2, Section 1. Yes, the Slaughter case is a huge, huge deal. It overturns, and they were very explicit. There's even a sentence in the majority opinion that says, whatever may be left of Humphrey's executor is hereby overturned. No ambiguity at all. This ruling is essential. It is Humphrey's executor is the case that enabled the creation of the deep state, because what it said was that the president doesn't actually have the power to fire people in the executive branch. But that's not the Constitution. The Constitution says plainly, Article 2, Section 1, the executive power of the United States shall be vested in the president. Okay, that means all of it. That doesn't mean some of it. That doesn't mean Congress can chip away at it. That means the executive power lies there. Legislative power, by the way, lies in Congress. Judicial power lies in the Supreme Court. And this is just basic separation of power stuff that you learned in elementary school. So why did we have Humphrey's executor? Well, very simple, because the technocratic view of socialism is that you're too stupid to rule yourselves, so you have to have an expert class that will actually make the important decisions for you. And you don't have to ask me about that. I'm not being pejorative. That is what Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said during oral arguments, that elected officials should not be able to fire PhDs. She said it flat out. So these are different worldviews. One of these is a republic, and that's what we're celebrating this 250th 4th of July. The other is fundamentally just Marxism. It's the belief that there must be an aristocracy of our betters to rule us, whether you call that bureaucrats or dukes and earls or the nomenclatura in the Soviet Union. The result is the same. You don't get a say. And overturning this means that Trump, and by the way, future presidents of both parties, can get rid of people in their administration who disagree with the mandate they received from the voters and replace them with people who will execute on the voters' wishes. That's what this ruling means. It is the biggest ruling of the year. I was very disappointed over birthright citizenship, but we can live with that. We'll get to that, I'm sure, in a minute. But this is 91 years coming. It is a blockbuster.
It's a beautiful thing. And Dean, I want to get your thoughts on that too. And then Rod had just touched on it, the birthright citizenship, which we know what's going to happen with that. I mean, we know that Trump is going to come out with both barrels just on fire after that. But Dean, I want to get your thoughts on what just took place on dismantling the deep state with Rod just put so eloquently. So go right ahead, Dean.
Yeah. Well, and people don't realize how big a change this is going to make. This is how the deep state survives. And putting in context, how did we get here? After World War II, the PhDs probably saved the world because they developed us nuclear weapons. And without them, who knows how that war would have ended. So it made sense to put all the smartest people in the room in charge and give them tenure and give them whatever. But that system has been perverted into the deep state. And now this is how you go about emptying the swamp. When you talk about we got to get rid of the deep state, we got to empty the swamp. How do you do that? What steps do you take to do that? Well, this is step one, and it's the biggest, hardest, most important, critical step, because now Trump can go through and start looking at all the weaponization of the FBI, our judicial system, and start going, let's get rid of these people, and they can't oppose it. So, and then we can replace those with people who are patriots, who do care about this country, who won't care about our Constitution and our rights. So that Rod is hit it. That is one of the most important decisions in many, many, many years. And it falls on the back of, and it falls on behind us stepping up to this when we had the Chevron doctrine overturned. So what we're seeing is this Supreme Court is systematically whittling away to where we're going to get to smaller government that is pro-American and is not bought off by Chinese or other foreign interests. But this is what that looks like. Coming on top of, there's been a lot of arrests this last week or two. There's John Bolton just pleading guilty. His sentence is coming up. There's a bunch, Comey has been put under indictment. So as Rod and I talked about, as we have talked about, this stuff is coming. So understand that we're talking, the Supreme Court's laying the foundation. We're identifying what's to come next. And this is going to happen. And it's a great, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful process for America.
And you may be watching this as a Freedom Chamber member, or maybe somebody forwarded it to you from them being a Freedom Chamber member. And what's this have to do with business? It has to do with everything with business. This is policy. These are the things that keep America moving forward. The deep state has been nothing but a ball and chain around great policies next for the last, 100 years, right, Rod? So this is a way of just getting rid of it, draining it, starting fresh, and getting the right people in the right places to make decisions that go with the will of the people and the voters that have voted the president into office.
Yeah, the slaughter case is essential to our daily lives, no matter what we do. If you were a coach or the head of an oil company, it would affect you because elections have to matter. And there's one president. He gets 5,000 political appointees, most of whom have to be confirmed by the Senate, and many of whom they won't even debate while he's still president. And then he's got 2.8 million federal employees making policy, implementing policy in their own image every day that he can't hire and fire. And it's absolutely absurd. So this is reinvigorating elections. This means that when you elect somebody president, and you better elect the right guy now, things really can change. Not just, the president makes a speech to Congress that nobody cares about. No, personnel is policy. And he is now able to remove personnel all the way down the line. That is a huge, huge deal.
And I believe that dovetails right into the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship, because now President Trump can tact and kind of put borders up and reinforce our ICE agents and do everything. Dean, your thoughts on what just took place in the Supreme Court ruling on that?
Well, I have very mixed feelings on that. My patriotism to America says that is the dumbest thing you could possibly do to this country. It allows an invasion. I've also got families here from Mexico, and one of them's pregnant. And so that issue's been really hot for us right now, and it's personal. But I have to wonder, just how in the world do 5 Supreme Court justices lack an ounce of common sense? This is basic. My dog's got more common sense than those 5 judges. You know, it's, you know, I understand the legal part of it, and I understand that when countries change, there needs to be some internal structural change, and that's what needs to happen here. That said, if we can get Congress and the Senate to vote on this, it's going to put a lot of people right squarely on the target, and I think it's an 85 to 90 issue. So it does give our legislators some tools to force some votes. Let's force votes and see how many Democrats decide that their careers are more important than their politics.
Roger, thoughts?
This was a real disappointment, and it goes to our problems with public education and the wokesters running our colleges. What you see here in Roberts and Barrett, and mind you, they are joined in this opinion by the 3 communists on the court. Roberts and Barrett have shown a really great track record of being textualists, which is good. You want people to read what the text says without being originalists. Well, okay, that's a problem because words change in meaning over time. Now, that's not actually entirely what happened here, but nevertheless, textualism unmoored from originalism is really just deconstructionism. And all of the current generation and the generation before that were just marinated in deconstructionism in college in particular, and increasingly in high school as well. So what do I mean? Well, okay, words change meaning over time. When the commonly understood meaning of the word militia in 1789 was all of the able-bodied people who can carry a firearm. Well, why would they feel that way? Well, first, they had just overthrown their government, so that was kind of important to them. Second, because they lived on a frontier where they could get attacked at any time by a foreign power or an Indian tribe or just a robber walking through the woods, and they all needed to be able to defend themselves and their communities because a tiny U.S. Army wasn't going to get there in time to help them. So militia meant something very specific. Today, militia, for most people, means the National Guard, which didn't even exist back then. So does the fact that the meaning of the word has changed in common usage over time change what the Founding Fathers passed in the Second Amendment? Well, no. And if it does, that means anybody can change any word they want and transform anything. For example, the word sick is commonly used by millennials and Gen Zers to mean cool. I don't understand that. I think that's crazy, but ooh, that's sick. And they mean it's good. Okay. Does that mean that all of our healthcare legislation now requires the federal government to infect you with a disease? Because that would be the legal implication without originalism. So textualism has to be linked to originalism. Clarence Thomas did a brilliant job of explicating that in his 91-page dissent. This is a man who's usually pretty brief. This decision bothered him so much, he wrote 91 brilliant pages that honestly everybody ought to read. And he goes through very clearly how literally everybody in 1868 understood this to mean we were making slaves citizens, not just any old foreigner who happens to show up. That was not being contemplated. It was discussed, and everybody agreed that wasn't the meaning of the text. Roberts just absolutely ran past that. He went back to just soli doctrine from English law before the Revolution. Yeah, but Mr. Chief Justice, we did have a revolution in between, and the 14th Amendment is an amendment to the result of the revolution on top of that. They aren't just continuing law from England from 1600. That's absurd. Thomas did a brilliant job of showing why. I just want to say quickly, because I know we're running up on time here, but it's important to understand this doesn't really change a lot practically because this was already how everybody was interpreting the law. What Donald Trump did is by forcing the issue, we've had the debate. And now we have a 5-4 decision where there's a great dissent that can be the blueprint for a better decision later. And it's a viable political topic where it was fringe kookiness 2 years ago. So kudos to the president. And now it becomes an enforcement problem.
How important now is the Save America Act as we move the ball forward towards America's 250th birthday and getting the senators to do their job?
Extremely, because they also ruled 5-4. And again, Roberts and Barrett in the majority, they ruled that you can keep counting those ballots as long as you're getting them. Now, there's actually a silver lining in that case. They said that you must receive, the ballot must be postmarked no later than election day. So that's good. That's a big plus compared to what California wants to do. But it does mean we have to pass the Save America Act so we can get a handle on these crazy mail-in ballots that are just a fraud machine.
Absolutely. Dean Owen, your thoughts on this as we wrap up this segment?
I think we're going to find this decade that this is not a 50-50 nation. We are an 80-20, 85-15 nation. But the 15 to 20% have got a very loud voice. There's a lot of politicians and bureaucrats that I believe have loyalty to foreign actors, which do not have America's best interest at heart. And when we get free, fair, and true elections, I think we're going to see a sea change in the entire country and the posture of America. It is coming. But the folks that need the election fraud are going to go down fighting hard because it's their way of life. This is no different than the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War II. We got to a point where the system is so broken it cannot be fixed, so it has to be radically ripped out and redone. And going back to paper ballots and counting them on that day works. We now know that Dominion machines can and have been hacked. We know that. So we know the 2020 election. We know what happened there. You know, some of us believe COVID was, you know, we also know that very likely came out of a lab in Ukraine. And we've all been thinking it's China. So,
and it was funded by Fauci.
So all the things that we've been talking about, it boils down to there's a lot of hope for America. When we get through these very difficult, dark days, we go to the world, we go to the light. And so America, hold on. We hear all about the bad stuff. There's a lot of good stuff that goes on that we don't get told. That's what Rod and I try to do here, share with you where we're going, what to expect with accurate, truthful information, full disclosure and context and weighting so that you can make better business decisions. That's why the Freedom Chamber hosts this show, is so that our members, and which I'm one, proud to be a member, we get good information, and the Freedom Chamber helps make this medium possible.
Absolutely appreciate that. Dean and Rod, I appreciate your insights. We're going to hang on for a second. We're going to get into segment 2, and we're going to bring one of our Freedom Chamber members in, Perucci Publishing. We're going to bring in the CEO, president. She's the guru. You'll want to get to know Stephanie. She's up next inside the Business Pulse.
My name is Dean Owen. I'm a CPA. I have a master's degree in taxation and a personal financial specialist. Tax laws are always changing. That's why you need a tax strategist, not just a tax preparer. You need someone to help you pay the least amount of tax legally, because if your business and retirement tax planning is not tax smart, it's probably tax dumb. Let's fix that today. Call me. Let's disinherit the government and not your kids. That's what my team and I do. This is who we are. I'm a combat veteran, unapologetically American, unapologetically pro-God, pro-life, and pro-Second Amendment. If those are the values you seek in a tax and money advisor, call us. Again, let's disinherit the government and not your kids. We're not afraid to share our values, and we share them with you.
America, welcome back into the Business Pulse, brought to you by the Freedom Chamber online at freedomchamber.net. It's Rod Martin, Dean Owen, Chuck Barham, and Stephanie Perucci. Stephanie, welcome into the Business Pulse.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. A Freedom Chamber member. Stephanie, tell us what you guys do at Perucci Publishing, please.
Absolutely. Perucci Publishing actually started in direct response marketing, and we were helping authors create books digitally about 15 years ago. And I've spent my entire career as a writer now, about 20 years. And then we decided to move into publishing because we saw how many people were doing it wrong and they weren't getting that marketing piece right.
What would be some of the steps that people were not doing correctly that you can say, hey guys, slow the wagon down, pull it to the side of the road, let us help you out? What would be some of those things you can help people out with?
Well, now remember, I'm a storyteller, so pretty much every question you ask, I'm going to respond with a story. So this
it's not going to be
morning,
a straight line. It's going to be a roundabout type thing. I get it. Go ahead. We're good.
no, this morning, you know, I read a manuscript, just reviewed it last night over the last couple days. Author calls me. He's like, great, let's go to publishing. And then after that, I want to hire you for marketing. And I said, you've got it all backwards. We want to make sure that before we publish, we understand exactly who the book's going to be marketed to. So are you marketing to universities, social studies teachers in high schools, political science majors? Are you marketing to the mass market? So I think the biggest mistake is that people publish a book and then they try to figure out what to do with it.
Understood. So they bake the cake and then, oh gosh, what else should be on the menu, right? Or should we put the cafe up at? So I mean, writing a book seems like a daunting task. And I know, Dean, you've got the book writing bug. Any questions for Stephanie since we've got her here at the Business Pulse?
Yeah, because I don't know what I'm doing. Never done this. So, and I'm quick to say I don't know, and take direction. But we probably need to jump on a call later because we're going to spend way too much time with her educating me on what I need to know.
Well, let's talk to Rod Martin then. I know he's got lots of insight, intel, and has done a lot in the publishing world. So, Rod, Stephanie is a wealth of knowledge. We were fortunate enough to meet her about a year ago here at our offices outside the dumpster fire that is Chicago. And we've kept this relationship alive. She's joined the chamber. Now she's part of it and happy to have her on the Business Pulse. Rod, the floor is yours.
Well, I think that I should defer to the expert here with a pretty simple question. You have raised an important issue. Authors go out with some book. They don't realize that more often than not, their publisher isn't going to do a tremendous amount of marketing for them. They don't know how to do it themselves. What do you recommend?
For different books, you have a different plan. And it's sort of like, I had a yoga teacher once say that there's as many ways to do yoga as there are people on the planet. And you know what? It's the same thing with books. There's books that have gone viral this year. You know, a great example is Theo of Golden, which was just published a few years ago. And that had like the word of mouth contagion of viral element. That is a unicorn. That is like a once every 25 years type of situation. So for all the rest of us, we have to figure out who's the target market, where are they going to find the book, how are we going to get them to share the book, and every marketing plan is a little bit different. Some authors are fit for podcasting, and some have a face for radio, and some do not belong on any media whatsoever. Some authors are so brilliant, but they can't write. So like you, they couldn't be tweeting or writing a Substack or anything like that. So we have to work with the author's talents, and we don't automatically throw people into paid ads or social media. In some cases, authors have no business getting on social media. And so that one size fits all approach to marketing is something I absolutely reject. So for instance, if an author doesn't belong on social media, I don't think it's good to start now and just start bleeding them of all their money. As opposed to that, I would like to make the book the product as opposed to the author as the spokesperson. So what we say simply is your book is a business with four corners. And of course, like business, no business is the same and no book is the same.
Now, do you guys only market books you publish?
No, that's another great question. We fix a lot of other publishers' errors, and we take a lot of books that were published maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago, and we will gently pry them out of other publishers' hands and redo it based off modern technology and artwork, etc. Or I just did this recently with a dear friend of some people who might be in this room probably, but I actually take publishers, I'll call them on behalf of my authors just as a marketing consultant, and I'll say, here's how we can revive this listing.
That's amazing.
It is. How much, I guess the question I have is, how much pushback do you get when you have a strong-headed author that says, nope, this is the way we're going to do it, this is how we do it? Do you say, okay, well, then you're not right for us? Or do you try to massage the relationship and get it to work?
Usually I'll show them the door just because at this stage in my career, I have that ability and I don't need anything. I have an 11-year-old who likes to fight with me, and I'm married. And so I have plenty of people to argue with, but I don't really argue with my authors. I usually am a pretty good saleswoman. And if even my best pitch is not converting the sale, it's just not a good fit. You know, a business coach once said it doesn't start off hard and get easy. And that's,
Right.
you know, something you adopt to hiring practices. I think when a man or woman in business is so desperate for money or a sale that they'll just take anyone as a client, that's a recipe for disaster.
It is. That's absolutely true. Let me ask you this. I mean, because this is what people are wondering. How much does this cost?
um, the very base, I'm going to get your book looking gorgeous, as professional as anything that, you know, Penguin Random House or Simon and Schuster would put online. Depending on the length of the book and the requirements of the editors, you know, it's ballpark $7,500 if we're front loading the costs. If we're sharing in the costs, it could be different. And of course, Rod, the big question is, what about that variable factor, which is the editing process? So I just edited a book for $25,000 because the author wrote it with ChatGPT, and we more or less did a rewrite.
That
Yeah.
was going to be my next question. How much has AI come into your world in the last couple of years?
Chuck, 5 years ago, our average rate for an editor was $3,500. This year, we have had few manuscripts that we were able to edit and put my beautiful name on for less than $15,000.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's made a big and deep impact in your market, in your world. And I mean,
Well, yeah.
that's crazy. And
It-
and do people try to get it? Do people try to hoodwink you and say, no, I wrote this. This wasn't AI. I wrote this. Or is your BS meter so sensitive nowadays? You just go, really? Let's take a real good look at this.
I can tell if people used Grammarly. I mean, I am so tuned in at this point. It's impossible to get past me.
I
Hey,
love
don't not Grammarly. It checks my spelling.
Grammarly hates my personality.
It hates mine too, actually.
your Grammarly's kryptonite. Where can people find you at, Stephanie, if they want to reach out to you and start a conversation?
People can find me at pieruccipublishing.com. I'm busy with my nose in books all day, so I don't do a whole lot of social media, but I'm pretty easy to find at pieruccipublishing.com. And coincidentally, a lot of what we've already discussed is in a free ebook people are welcome to download from the website.
Fantastic. Stephanie, thank you so much for being a part of the Freedom Chamber. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for keeping, as I say, print is not dead. It's just in a new generational look and a generational feel. So thank you for all that you do there. And thanks for being a part of the Freedom Chamber. Dean Owen, where can people find you? And talk to us about real quick what's happening this weekend with Trump and kids and accounting and taxes and all that stuff.
This is a big weekend. Not only is it our 250th anniversary, it's also the day that Trump accounts come alive. The form you used to fill out to apply for those is Form 4547. Some irony in that. And if you have children under 18 years old, you want to do this. Now, I don't know if it's the primary vehicle you want to use to save for college, to save for their retirements, whatever. But especially if you have a child born between January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028, then they're automatically going to get $1,000 put into their account for them. If you live in an area where the average income is less than $150,000, the Dell family has put up a boatload of money so that each one of those kids can get an extra $250. And that's free money. So you got to take the free money. But there's some limits on it. They're still fine tuning them a little bit, but this is a big deal because what this is going to do is it's going to raise a new generation of kids who learn to watch the financial markets, who learn about money. They can't take the money out. It's, the penalties are worse than IRAs, but they get to watch it. They get to understand investing. They get to understand that, what does it look like to have financial assets? And at 18, they can convert them to Roth, and that's very favorable. There is basis created, so you have to track that. There's a lot of stuff going on with it. There's some limits. But if your financial advisor is not talking to you about this, is he a financial advisor or a stock jockey? Let's be honest. Right. This is a big one.
They should reach out to you, and where can they find you at, Dean?
OwenCPA.com, OWENCPA.com. Jump online, connect with my team. The conversation and friendship are always free. Let's make sure we disinherit the government and not your kids.
Amen. And the Martin Report. Rod, where can we find you?
Come to rodmartin.org. That's rodmartin.org, where we do daily geopolitical analysis. Fox Business calls absolutely phenomenal. Tens of thousands of subscribers for our daily long-form content, hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. There's a reason. So come to rodmartin.org.
Stephanie, Dean, and Rod, thank you so much for being a part of the Business Pulse, and happy birthday, America. 250 strong, and you're beautiful as ever. We appreciate you, and you can join us at the Freedom Chamber, freedomchamber.net. Online, that's where you can hook up digitally with Stephanie and learn more about her on her blog and podcast. You have a podcast, Stephanie, or is this the first launch of one? I forgot to ask you that.
I get asked every day, but no, nothing.
Maybe we should work on that. But you can definitely find her inside of freedomchamber.net. Happy birthday, America. You are beautiful. And this has been the Business Pulse.
The American dream, full of grit, determination, and unthinkable achievements. Building and owning your own business is a monumental task. A place to find guidance, resources, and connections doesn't exist.
Until now. The Freedom Chamber.
A dynamic and innovative organization established to empower businesses across all sectors. The Freedom Chamber. Find us online at freedomchamber.net. Join us today.